This video is presented with the help of Sloan Motors, buying, selling, and consigning the best examples of vintage Porsches in the world.
What we have here is Porsche's 911 GT3 Touring, which is basically a GT3 without the huge rear wing. It has a 4-liter flat 6 and a 6-speed manual transmission. It makes 500 horsepower and 339 pound-feet. The engine revs to 9,000 RPM and makes peak horsepower just under that, whereas peak torque comes in at around 6,000 RPM. So what that gives you is a very responsive, naturally aspirated engine that is probably the most willing to rev than any other car that's on the market right now, at least that Porsche offers. The premise of this trip was to pick up this GT3 Touring at PCNA's headquarters at the Experience Center in Atlanta. Then we drove north to some twisty roads near Suches, and then back down south about 5 hours to Savannah, Georgia. We wanted to test out how the GT3 Touring is at touring. And what we found is, yes, it's a pretty good touring car. So the suspension is stiff. There are spherical bearings in place of the rubber bushings, and the springs are stiff. But what makes the ride somewhat compliant, surprisingly so, is how well damped the shocks are. You've got to remember, it has very little sound deadening. Every little noise, pebble, expansion joint that you run over on the road, you're going to hear it in the chassis. You're going to feel it through the seat of your pants, through the steering wheel, and you're going to have to talk a little bit louder to have a conversation with your passenger, of which there can only be one, since there are no rear seats. The turn-in is sharp and the throttle is sharper. You got to be careful. This car, you get the feeling it's going to bite if you're not respectful to it. And therein lies probably the GT3 Touring's biggest draw. It's the ultimate sleeper. It doesn't shout, "I'm a GT3, but it has all the performance bits, minus the rear wing, that make a GT3 a GT3. My favorite part about the car is its engine. There are better 911s in Porsche's lineup for driving long distances, and they're still great handling cars with great engines. With that being said, there is no other power plant made today that sounds quite like this 4-liter flat 6. It is the exact opposite of what Porsche's 3-liter twin-turbo engines are in the Carrera lineup. And then a trip up to Redline. Just to hear that sound, you'll often be in illegal speeds depending on the gear you're in. My least favorite part about the car would probably have to be the NVH, or noise, vibration, harshness. That's nitpicking because I love a stiff suspension and I value good handling over supreme comfort, and you know, that's exactly what this car does. But if you're looking for great transportation with a better degree of comfort and nearly as much performance, then you might go with a different car, such as a Carrera, Carrera S, or Carrera GTS. Is the GT3 Touring worth it? I think so. The combination of performance and comfort is just right for me.